We have Julia Jenaé joining us from Court TV and anchor with Court TV. Julia, we know that the jury has now gone home for the day. 18-day trial. What's your takeaway knowing that they went home around 3:30 here today?
This is particularly surprising to me. Before I knew that they were going to go home at 3:30 p.m. on a Thursday, I was thinking that this would be a relatively quick deliberation, particularly because this is a sequestered jury. And that usually means there's an added level of urgency and anxiousness, because remember, it's not just a juror who's giving up their 9 to 5 every day. They're missing out on work. These jurors are missing out on contact with their family, with being at home sleeping in their bed every night, even being in their own community because of the way this jury had to be selected. So I'm very surprised that they made the decision not to stay there for the rest of the day and hammer out as much as they could, perhaps even going into the night to see if they could get on the same page and render a verdict in this case. It could be that this jury did get on the same page when they were there behind closed doors, but wanted the night to sleep on it, come back tomorrow, and there could be a quick verdict. But it could just be that this jury wanted to take some time and come back tomorrow fresh after hearing those closing arguments.
I know throughout the trial so far, the jury has asked several questions. What does that tell you about just how engaged the jury is asking those questions daily?
I always think that it is great to see a jurisdiction that allows jurors to ask questions. We don't always get that. There are many courtrooms across this country that don't allow jurors to get involved. It's up to the prosecution to answer all of their questions with their case and meet their burden. But here it's a unique situation where throughout this case, the jury has been able to weigh in, which helps the state to make sure they shore up any holes that they may have left in this case. But it also signals to the defense what the jurors rather are focused on, what they want to hear, and perhaps all of that could have been answered for them in closing arguments. So I think that could put them in that unique scenario behind closed doors, that all of their questions have been answered. They really feel confident in what they've heard, their own notes or what have you, and they're just going to get started with going through this and making sure they're on firm footing for when they deliver that verdict.
And I know in this case, in any case, the state has the burden of proof. So what is required by the state in order to prove that someone is guilty? I know in this case there's been a lack of DNA evidence, a lot of circumstantial evidence. What does the state need to prove in order to show that Richard Allen is guilty?
Well, they need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was the person that committed this. And they don't have to have necessarily direct evidence. We don't have a video of him committing this crime. Despite the Bridge Guy video, it is not evidence of him doing the crime because we don't have any footage of it actually taking place. Yes, it's very rare that we have that, but that would be direct evidence. An eyewitness who saw him doing that would also be direct evidence. What we have is a lot of circumstantial evidence. We have that spent bullet that perhaps went through the gun of Richard Allen. We have eyewitnesses who place him, some who were discredited, but place him at the scene around the time. And we have that video on the phone of the girls that showed someone who appears to be him being one of the last images that they took before we hear anything from them, before everything goes radio silent. That's allowed. The prosecution can make a circumstantial case. The question is whether or not the jury thinks that it actually goes to the point of beyond a reasonable doubt.
Julia Jenaé from Court TV, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.